Hey guys, it's Crystal the nurse here. Thank you guys for being so patient with me while I do a new video. I've been traveling and doing the whole post-op thing. Today I actually wanted to talk about something that I get asked quite a bit in very different ways, in very different stages, which is kind of having a BBL and a tummy tuck at the same time. Okay, so oh man, I don't want to get too technical today, but I do want to kind of break certain things down so a lot of women who have not had both can get as many facts as possible, because there are a lot of women out there who have had a tummy tuck and BBL, and some of them look fantastic, and I think that's great. I think, if you have a procedure done safely and you do all the right steps in the recovery process, I'm all about the safety. For me, is always number one. I'm always going to come from a place of safety. However, for those women that haven't had those procedures and they ask me, what should I do? Should I do one before the other? Just know, with me, I am always going to come from a place of safety. So let's just get into it. So with a tummy tuck, okay, so a tummy tuck is a very invasive procedure, first and foremost, and so is a BBL, a Brazilian butt lift. There's a reason why some doctors do not do both. I know a lot of women sometimes in their research process have come across certain doctors that have refused to do both at the same time. The reason being is just because of the high risk. It's a high risk. A tummy tuck by itself is a high risk. A BBL by itself is high risk. So combining both of those two, I'm sure you can imagine where some surgeons are coming from. Because with a tummy tuck, okay, so they're removing a certain area of fat, usually on the lower portion of your abdomen. Sometimes doctors will do liposuction on the upper area of the abdomen and then, pull it down and tighten and suture. And sometimes, women will do muscle repair. It's complex, even for a surgeon. But in terms of the recovery process, I think that's where a lot of surgeons come from, because you have to understand when you do for those ladies that have already done tummy tucks, after your procedure, you can only be positioned a certain way. And the reason for that, because a lot of women are like, why do I have to hump over? Because if you were to sit straight up after a tummy tuck, you would create what's called a dehiscence, which is essentially a separation of your incisions or your sutures, which would expose fat. And it's just, I've seen it. We don't ever want to have that, essentially. So let's just, start with that. It's one of the major risks and one of the major dangers, so that's one of the reasons why a lot of women, after they have a tummy tuck, they do have to be hunched over. They have to make sure that they're not creating, this opening in the wound, because there is a lot of tension after. Obviously there's going to be a lot of discomfort, but the tension factor is very high, because what a lot of women don't tell you, and I've been doing this long enough to know when some women are giving me part of the story or a little bit of the story, some women, make that clear, some women don't tell you is that when I don't know if sometimes when we do research, we'll see women with like the open tummy tucks. It's like the incision is open and it's getting necrotic and all this other stuff. A lot of women may not mention the fact that the opening to begin with was due to creating a dehiscence by sitting up too fast. Some women have, this true story, some women have actually reported trying to reach for something, not realizing that they were, post-op and still very fresh and still having a lot of tension down there, opening the stitches up. Very traumatic. Very traumatic. I've actually treated a lot of women who have already had surgery, had the dehiscence occur, and then they found me and asked me to do the wound care, and it's not fun. I mean, nobody wants that, okay? So there's that. So, essentially, again, always coming from a place of safety. After a tummy tuck, you can only be in a particular position for a certain amount of time, and that position is in, let's say you have a recliner, or you have to be a little bit tucked in, you have to be hunched over, or for a lot of women, like I said, they sit in a recliner because it's a little bit more relaxing for them, and you have to, have your body pivoted to a certain degree, so you're not sitting straight up. You have to crunch down a bit. This is standard. This is standard with all tummy tucks. Even the mini ones, they prefer that you just, keep your body a little bit crunched. And, this is all just to prevent wounds and dehiscence and just all the gory stuff that nobody really wants to see. So when you're talking about BBLs, I think it's notorious. One of the notorious rules after a BBL is that you cannot sit on your butt. This is, I know some women are like, oh, I sat on it 2 days later. That's fantastic. Good for you. For me, what if you pay for your surgery and you invest in your surgery and then you want to sit after a BBL or you want to reach up to the stars after a tummy tuck, that is your decision. I never recommend that. So with BBLs, I never recommend sitting on your butt too early. I have a video about sitting too early. Please watch it if you haven't had a BBL yet, because it might save your butt. So of course, after a BBL, doctors will say don't sit on your butt for a certain amount of time. There's obviously a reason why they're saying that. It's not just something that they're repeating. And yes, doctors do repeat a lot of things, but this is one of the big ones. Both after a tummy tuck, you need oxygen in order for healing, and the same thing with fat cells in your butt after a BBL. So imagine if you have your tummy tuck on the table, you're having the procedure, they're doing their thing, they do some lipo on the upper abdomen, they cut the lower part off, they're sewing you together, there's that tension. Then they're going to flip you over, make you flat on your stomach. Some doctors who have you flat on your stomach while they're performing the BBL in order to do it safely, in order to do it effectively. And then you're putting that tension, and it's, for some doctors, they do not want to risk that. And I respect that, because I completely understand why, just in terms of the anatomy of the body after surgery. So when women do have both, you'll often hear them, or maybe you're on a group, or you just have a discussion, you'll often hear them ask, what's the best way to sit, what's the best way to sleep, what's the best way to do this or that. So I'm going to tell you, there is no best way. I'm just going to be very, very blunt, because this can get into a very split discussion, because again, there's a lot of women that get both. There's a lot of surgeons that do both. However, a lot of those surgeons know damn well that if they do both, and knowing that you have to be in a certain position, that you are at a high risk of damaging the fat cells in the buttocks or the hips or the thighs, because some women do actually put them in their thighs too. You're at a very high risk. Now, please put in the comments down below if your surgeon has actually told you this, if you have had this procedure. A lot of doctors don't necessarily tell you every single detail. Some doctors that do both will say, yeah, after your tummy tuck and your BBL, just get a recliner and then put some pillows and then put some this and that, knowing that even with the pillows, even with all the pillows in the world, you are still putting pressure on your butt. It's gravity. It comes down to that. It is gravity. So surgeons know this. Surgeons know damn well that, when they do both, you're going to have to put pressure on your butt. Ideally, someone doing a BBL will tell you not to put pressure on your butt. So just knowing this, we all know this. Those that have done research for either one or the other or both know this. The cardinal rules for recovery for either or. So for me, if you want to do both, just know that you are putting yourself at a very high risk of damaging the fat cells in the back. Because once you have fat transferred and you have the existing fat and you put the new fat together, they need oxygen in order to connect. They need to connect first, and they need oxygen in order to stay connected and thrive and, fluff, essentially. So if you're having a tummy tuck, you're already kind of putting a number one risk there, because that area also needs, oxygen to essentially heal properly. So if you're I've already lost a lot of blood in that area. That area is trying to heal as fast as it can, and then on top of that you have the BBL, and that is also trying to, get connected to your existing fat cells, and it needs oxygen, but you're sitting on a pillow because that's what your doctor told you to do. I mean, I'm not knocking anybody who does both. I want to make that very clear. However, I always come from a place of safety. So for me, and I always come from a place of getting the best results. So for me, I've seen women who've had both and they love the results. Doesn't necessarily mean it was the safest, but there are women out there who've done both that love the results. So I get, again, in terms of the question, can you have both? Technically, yes, you can. Technically, there are surgeons who will happily do it, of course, because there are. However, I personally feel like the safest way, if you want both, the safest way would be to separate them. Another thing, a lot of women want to have both because they don't want to go through the pain of two surgeries. I get it. It's logical. It's a logical way of thinking. However, when it comes to safety, I think some women throw that out the window. I'm just saying. No shade. Like, no one's judging, but I think a lot of women are like, I want to have both at the same time. I don't want to have a tummy tuck and then 6 months or 8 months later, I just want to do it all at the same time. And I'm not shading you. I mean, in an ideal world, I would feel the same way. But when it comes to the anatomy, and getting the best results, I would personally, if I wanted to do both, I would get a tummy tuck first, because what happens is, to some women, not all, just keep in mind when I say certain things, I'm not talking about everyone in the whole population. I'm talking about certain women. Percentages of women will get a tummy tuck first, and they might actually just enjoy what the results are, right? But keep in mind that it depends on what they're starting off with. It depends on what the results look like, because what happens with the tummy tuck is that they're, for some women who have a lot of excess fat on the back, when they take that fat out, or when they're pulling the skin down after healing process, they'll notice that their waist is super snatched, and they like how it creates this illusion of a super snatched waist with their buttocks. And some women are like, you know what, I don't even need a BBL. You know what I mean? But again, there are some women that definitely want the BBL as well, and they're going into it knowing that they want the BBL. So if they get that tummy tuck first, they have no room to worry about the butt and sitting on the butt. Obviously, it's a long healing process. This is no easy feat. Like, we're not talking about, like, this is surgery. So yes, it is a long process. So after they get their, tummy tuck, they can walk, they can stand up straight. And then when they get their BBL, of course, you're not supposed to sit on your butt. So it's all good and you're in the clear, and then you can lay flat and be comfortable. That's in an ideal world. But again, I am not here to tell people what to do. I'm just always, anytime I discuss any topic, it will be coming from a place of safety, and it will also be coming from a place of getting the best results possible. Okay? So, I'm not shading you if you had both. That's all I'm saying. So, if you guys have any more questions about the tummy tucks and the BBLs, please feel free to put a comment down below, any questions, or you guys can email me. I'm going to add an email down in the description. Hopefully I can add that today. And just FYI, because a lot of people don't know, this might be someone's first video. I have been a private nurse for a little over 10 years now. This is like one of my passions. I absolutely love it. I love seeing women transform and get exactly what they want. And even the women that meet me a little bit later with a complication, we're able to solve it. We're able to get you to the highest level of snatchery that we possibly can. So yeah, if you guys have any questions about that, please feel free to contact me with any questions at all. I love this stuff. So that's all I got for today. This is Crystal the Nurse. I will see you guys next time.